New research shows that just about managing families in the UK are no better off than they were in 2003. In the first world, the general expectation is that as time goes by, living standards go up. People have access to decent jobs, they have access to food and water and a way of life that's comfortable. They're able to raise a family and have a bit of extra income to spend on luxuries. That's the general expectation in the first world, and it's something that's entirely possible. But new research from the Resolution Foundation shows that millions of struggling families are now no better off than they were in 2003. In fact, they're a little bit more worse off. In the Living Standards Audit 2018, the Resolution Foundation estimated how household incomes have performed, but it also looked at the underreporting of benefit income in official survey data. But what I think is the most interesting part of this study, what this research found, is that between 2016 and 2017, households on the lower half of incomes earned around 14,800 quid, which is not a lot of money. But it's even more shocking when you consider the fact that it's £100 less than those same kinds of families in that same sort of parameters in 2003. The figure's been adjusted for housing costs and inflation, so yeah, I mean, if you hadn't adjusted it for that, then technically the figure would have been over 20k, but it has been adjusted for that. But still, £100 worse off than 2003, 15 years ago. The BBC reports there are more than 8 million low and middle income households, with just under half who have children. Incomes for households in 2017-2018 increased by 0.9%, but this is the lowest rise in 4 years and half of the average rise between 1994 and 2007, and income fell by up to 150 quid for the poorest families over the last year. And to top it off, over 40% of low to middle income households were said in this report to be unable to save even £10 a week. And even worse than that, over 30% of these households couldn't even afford a week-long holiday with their children, not even to Blackpool or anything. They could not afford to go away with their kids, period. I remember the politicians recently in the House of Commons before the summer recess talking about the problem of children who get free school dinners, potentially going malnourished over the summer. This is how serious this problem is. And I know it sounds cliched, but I think this is something the politicians really don't want other people to know about. That's why they claim that the unemployment figures are lower than ever before. The story is way more complicated than that. New figures show that low to middle income families in the UK are earning £100 less than they did in 2003. 15 years ago. Over a third of families can't even afford a 1-week holiday with their kids, and over 40% of low to middle income families can't even save a tenner a month. Meanwhile, the government claims that their 4.2 unemployment rate is the lowest ever, and really it is a record low, but this is really misleading because it fails to recognise the significance of underemployment. Technically, anyone who wants a job right now can go and get one. We're at full employment, but data from the Office for National Statistics shows that the amount of people underemployed is greater than it was in 2008. That means people who technically have work, who technically have a job, but they're on 0 hours contracts because that's all that's available. They're technically considered employed when they can go weeks, days, weeks, maybe even longer without any work at all. It's scandalous that that is considered record low unemployment. The poor are getting poorer in Britain, and we should care about that. Workers are being forced to take 0 hour contracts because there's nothing else, so some weeks they have no work at all, and this is creating a bigger disparity in Britain than ever. Taxes are too high, the poorer are getting poorer, and the rich are benefiting from cheap labour imported from all over the third world and even Europe. This has to end. If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, remember to like and subscribe.